So good morning. We'll try that again. This is the time where you ponder upon your third cup of coffee. So good morning. All right, now I have your attention. Great stuff. So as we were saying, my name is Mike Larsson. I am the CEO for Dematic of Americas, and it's a pleasure to be here. First, thank you for inviting us to speak here today. It's an honor, right? And you know, I've pondered upon when I sat in the audience, what is it that brings us to these events? Of course, you want to come and network and meet new people. You want to come and learn something from other businesses. But most of all, you maybe come here to get inspired, right? And I listened to Ruben, I listened to Tina, and you know, the inspiration is fantastic. Thank you for sharing your stories. It's hugely inspirational to me and to my organization. So thank you for doing that. So I'm gonna try to focus a little bit today on people-centric leadership. And you know, what we have done at Dematic, you're gonna follow my story a little bit. But before we go there, you know, something that has made me who I am as a leader, I think is exactly what the presentation said in the beginning. I grew up in Sweden, and after I did my college, I moved to the Middle East. I spent some time in China. I spent some time in Switzerland, and then I came to the US. And what I learned in my journeys, right, is that despite that people have many different ways of managing their business, people at the core are the same, right? The way, what drives people is the same thing. And as leaders, we really have to pick up on what is important to people, align them to the mission, and then try to figure out how we inspire them to take the next step. And if we can do that, we will have bigger and better long-term results than if you do something else. And I think COVID put a whole different perspective on that as well, right? The people centricity, you know, and showing people that we care for them, that is a much different story today than it was 3 years ago before COVID. So that's kind of the journey we're on. I'm also sure that you all know Dematic, some do, some don't. So Dematic is the world's largest supply chain automation provider. And we've been here in Michigan since 1939. We are about 12,000 people globally, 6,000 people in the region, and we have about we serve 35 different countries. And if you think about the biggest brands that you probably buy from every day, Amazon, Nordstrom, Burlington, we serve them all, and we have a slogan where we say that we power, you know, the world's largest brands. So when you think about supply chain automation, what is that? I always think about an answer when I go to barbecues and family gatherings. People ask, "What do you do, Mike?" So I said, "I'm in supply chain automation," and you get that blank feedback. What does that mean? So what supply chain really does is, if you think about, I'm sure you all go shop online. And when you go shop online, you want to have that package delivered the day after you order it. And we provide the automation and the software to make that happen. So when you go to the Amazon website, we provide automation and software to them so that they can deliver your package when you need it. So that's in short what we do. So there's a little magic. And I say, you know, people order from time to time online. I find that my family from time to time really is every day, because every day I come home from work, there's a new package on my doorstep. So that's good, because it grows the e-commerce and it grows our own business. So that's a good thing for us. So I want to take you through a little journey today that we've been through. And when I think about resilience often is thought about how do you deal with downturns, difficult times. And surely COVID was a very difficult time for many companies, and I do sympathize with that. But having been in supply chain for the last 2 years, you know, we went through a very different journey. COVID drove an incredible e-commerce boom that, you know, has been unparalleled in the past. And if you look at Dematic, what happened to us, we grew more, we almost doubled our business in 1 year. That meant that we had to add 3,000 people to our organization. You heard we have 12,000 people globally. We have 6,000 people regionally. We almost double the amount of people that we had within 1 year. So resiliency is not only about how do you handle a downturn, it's also how do you handle an incredible increase in volume. And you know, how do you work with that stress, right, in the organization that comes from everything is breaking apart, right? If you imagine a company that is built for 3,000 people in a smaller volume and scale to double that in 1 year, you're going to start seeing some cracks, right, in processes and how you handle people. And that's the kind of the journey on. That's what I want to talk about today. How do you actually manage that? And what the path we went on, we had a very traditional way of managing. You know, we were looking at the results every quarter, and we were kind of almost a little bit of a fear-based management. We drove very hard on people to deliver every quarter, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. That's what every public company does, right? But as we went into COVID, this increase happened right as COVID started. So now we're dealing with, not only do we deal with the fact that we have to start taking care of people. So the first thing we were looking at is how do we actually get people of the whole organization to be aligned to the mission? You have a core of people who's been with the company for maybe 10, 15, 30 years. You have a much of people coming in, 3,000 people coming in from various different industries. They're young, they're older, they have all different expectations of the organization. So how do you actually get together and how do you get them to understand that what the mission is? And the mission wasn't the traditional mission, how do we get the next level, EBIT the next quarter? The mission was, how do we look after our people? How do we make sure that the people are safe? How do we make sure that nobody gets hurt in this very difficult time, right? So we changed the focus. And we had to use very untraditional tools, right? You couldn't go to the office and talk to people face to face anymore because there was nobody in the office. So how do you actually create a focus? So we had to go and actually work through Teams, of course, but we created an enormous amount of small video snippets where we actually sent out to our employees to make sure that they understood where are we as a company, and we over-communicated every day. Where do we stand? What have we done? How are we keeping our people safe? How can you help out by keeping our people safe, right? So this whole, you are now into an era where you have to do go different paths to reach your people. But the importance was, I wanted to make sure that we aligned the people around the mission, that everybody in the organization understood the mission, and that also means that the way you communicate is not the same. When you go to the boardroom, you have a certain way of communicating, but reaching the people at every level of organization, you need to tailor the message to that piece of the organization, right? And that's why we spend so much time actually creating a message that, trying to resonate with each part of the organization, looking the people in the eye and say, this is what we're going to go do. Do you understand the mission? This is where the path we're on. The journey was less centric on business performance and more centric around how do we actually keep our people safe and how do we get through this together. Tina said something earlier that I thought was very interesting. It's about communicating hope, right? And be that beacon out there that says, okay, we got this. We're going to get through this. Because as you grow that business that fast, you're challenged with things you've never seen before. As a leader, you don't have the answers. You have to try to find the answers, but you're going to need the organization to help you find those answers, right? And I think that was a really good statement. Be that beacon of light. Make sure that you can provide people and feel that, okay, leadership understands where we're at. They're responding to what's happening, and at least there's a path to the future, right? And being that beacon is very important. So Tina, thank you for sharing that thought. I think we are very similar in our thinking. The other thing we did, and this is, my passion is people-centric leadership. And what we started to do as COVID abated a little bit, we set on a path to go out and what we call listening sessions. So what does that mean? We brought people together in small groups, like a table here, maybe 10, 15 people at the time. Why did we do that? We brought them together because we want to come out and be listening and be authentic and hearing from our people after we went through COVID, after we added all these people with diverse and good ideas from other industries just coming in, and maybe people even from college, right? How can they help us create a better culture, and how can we help them be more successful in their careers, right? So we set out to do these listening sessions. We actually went to see about 1,000 people in settings of 10 and 12 at the time. Why did we do it in that small setting? We did it because many people have a hard time speaking up in big forums, right? So it's very difficult to say something. Maybe they're shy. Maybe they don't feel comfortable if they say something critical. How is that going to be interpreted by management? So the idea was go and be completely vulnerable as a leader, open up and say, I'm here for you. You can tell me anything that you feel about the company, obviously constructive. And we're going to take those inputs. We're going to create an action plan that says, we listened to you, we heard you. We're going to take what you gave us, make an action plan that actually resonates with you. We're not going to act on everything you say. There's tons of ideas, right? But we're going to take them, we're going to prioritize them. So you actually have an opportunity to go and be part of how we develop this company. And that has made a huge difference for us, because I do think that after COVID, the team spirit and the people's alignment with the business has changed dramatically, right? And they felt that they got the chance to actually be part of how we drove this. And of course, when you have people that are very stressed out and you're testing the boundaries of the organization, bringing people in, let them be part of the journey, make them feel that they can actually make decisions that's relevant for them, was a huge step in how we make this company where it is today. And I can tell you, we don't have a lot of data points, right? We only come out of COVID a year ago, but for us, retention is up significantly. We're going to double our results this year. We do every year an employee survey where we ask people, what do you think about the company, where are we, and so on. And the feedback is, we had a 22% higher respond rate, which says people are more engaged now and want to say something. And we came out at a much higher employee satisfaction rate than we had in previous years. So clearly there's something in this, right, that we're going to continue to develop. But I think the biggest thing for me, from a leadership perspective, looking at COVID, looking at what changes, right, what we have to really think about as leaders is employees has to be at the center of what we do, right? It's easy to say, I'm going to go to board meetings, going to do this important stuff, I'm going to create a strategy. I spend probably 50% of my time with employees today, right? So where do we spend our time as leaders has changed. I think that focus on making sure that people feel really spoken to, face-to-face if possible, have the opportunity to say something and you have to listen, creates a whole different level of engagement in the organization. If you manage to get the diverse team of people in the organization, you also get a lot more ideas, you look at problems differently, and you can go solve your business challenges in a much different way than you would do otherwise. And I can tell you, for me at least, it's been incredibly rewarding to take that journey. It takes a lot of energy for a leader to do that. It forces you to be vulnerable, to open up and talk people. It's okay to say that you don't have all the answers. It's okay to say that you don't know everything. We're going to go figure it out together. But help me help you get better, right? And that's the learning that we had there. The other piece you have to think about is, after COVID, we employed 3,000 people. Some of them come out of college, right? They want to start their journey with us. Their life is, they grew up through COVID, right? They have a whole different expectation of us as an employer. It's not coming in at 8 in the morning, clocking out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. That's not what it's all about. We put our organization in a very difficult work-life balance situation for the last 2 years, right, with this growth. That new generation says, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I want to work from home. I don't want to be in the office. I want to work for 2 months and then take 2 months off. Very different expectations from that generation than previous generations, right? And if we don't listen to people and we try to hold our mantra up and we're going to work like we always worked, we're going to lose our ability to become that employer in the industry that people want to come to. So that dynamic is also important, right? The world is changing. The world changed significantly during COVID. So be mindful of the fact that whatever recipes you had before for attracting talent may not be the recipes for the future, right? And lastly, I leave you, so this is not really a lesson, it's more of food for thought for you, right? Resiliency sits in the fact that we have to be responsive, we have to guide people with hope, we have to keep a positive momentum in the organization. Result is not only what matters. Believe me, I'm a CEO, I know I have to deliver results. But the long-term trajectory of the company, how do we make sure that that long-term result is what's important? Every quarter is important, I get that, right? But in order for you to get really long-term success, bring your people with you, focus on employees, be an employee-centric leader, and that's going to create a culture in the company where you have cohesiveness, and you're going to get a much better team spirit, and people are going to align around the mission, and that's what's going to make you successful. Culture trumps strategy every day. Think about that. And those are the thoughts I want to leave you with today. So thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate it.